All right. Sorry for the dramatic entrance, but this is the seventh and final video on your lecture material for the digestive system. So we're going to finish up with the large intestine or the colon. And as I said, that's going to be the last one for the digestive system. So let's get started. All right, so here we go. The large intestine, aka the colon, extends from the ileocecal sphincter to the anus. So let me grab my pen. This is the duodenum. Excuse me, not the duodenum. This is the ileum of the small intestine. And as you can see, it's connected right here. And this constriction is the ileocecal sphincter. So it's the boundary between small intestine and the large intestine. And again, you can see why it's called the large intestine. It is a much larger in diameter tube than this guy, the small intestine. So it will extend from this point all the way up and over until we reach the exit of your body, also known as the anus. The medical specialty that deals with the diagnosis and treatment of disorders of the rectum and the anus is called proctology. So there is a medical practice out there that deals solely with the colon or the large intestine. So clearly, it is a very important organ to our survival. The subdivisions of the large intestine include the cecum, which the cecum is this kind of dead end area right here. You can see it goes nowhere. So the food, here's the ileum, food comes in here, and then it will enter into the colon, and the cecum is just kind of a dead end area. Why the ileum doesn't attach down here, I couldn't tell you, but it's up here. So that's this section is the cecum. The colon, and there are some different sections to the colon, but the whole thing primarily is considered the colon. But there are even some subdivisions of that. So this point, so if you're food, you're going to be squeezed up the colon. So that is called the ascending colon. This section of the colon that goes across the body, kind of in a transverse plane, is called just that. It's referred to as a transverse colon. Then we have this portion that comes down this way. That's the descending colon. And then we branch over into the sigmoid colon, the rectum, and then, of course, the anus down there at the bottom. Mechanical movements of the large intestine include haustral churning, peristalsis, and mass peristalsis. And so that would be moving a large amount of material. And I'll just leave that to your imagination. The last stage of chemical digestion occurs in the large intestine through bacterial rather than enzymatic action. So again, we discussed this on one of the earlier lessons. This is where E. coli, the bacteria that if it's on your food is not good. You don't want E. coli in your bloodstream. You want E. coli, you don't want it outside of your colon. You really only need it in your colon. It's considered a coliform bacteria, and it does actually help prepare whatever's left over, that indigestible material, for removal out of the body. Substances are further broken down, and some vitamins are synthesized by the bacterial action and absorbed by the large intestine. So that bacteria actually helps your body get the last little bit of food and nutrients that it can out of whatever has made it through the small intestine. Remember from yesterday's lesson, small intestine is going to have 90% of all absorption. So whatever occurs in the large intestine is of that remaining 10%. So not a lot, but a little bit, at least to make it worth discussing. So primarily what's going to be absorbed through the large intestine is going to be water. We're going to try to get as much water out of that indigestible material as possible as a way to conserve water in our bodies. There will also be electrolytes, and there will be some vitamins removed out of the large intestine. So that means whatever's left over is considered feces or fecal matter. And what's going to be in fecal matter will be water, whatever we can't get out of it. There will be some inorganic salts, some sloughed off epithelial cells. So there will be some cells from the inner lining of your large intestine will be in your fecal matter. There will be, of course, bacteria. So the E. coli is in there. So naturally, there's going to be E. coli in the fecal matter. The products of the bacterial composition, so whatever the bacteria produced, whatever their metabolic activities are going to produce byproducts. And so that's going to be in your fecal matter. And of course, undigested food parts. So whatever your body can't digest, and one of the biggest items that we eat that you can't digest is cellulose. And hopefully we remember from biology class that plant cells have a cell wall, and that cell wall is made of cellulose. And that material is indigestible. We cannot digest that material. So to get the nutrients out of the plants, we need to break open as many of those cell walls as we can. And we do that with chewing. There will be some breakdown in the stomach. Some of that, some of those cell walls will be broken down in the churning of the stomach. But primarily, it's our mastication that's going to break open a lot of those cell walls. So when you're eating your veggies, when your fruit, make sure you chew them up as best you can to break open as many cell walls as you can, so that you can get as much nutrients out of that plant as you can. So although most water absorption occurs in the small intestine, the large intestine absorbs enough to make it an important organ in maintaining the body's water balance. So there is going to be some water absorption. So whatever enters the large intestine from the small intestine, right there from the ileum of the small intestine, is basically going to be fecal matter, but it's a lot runnier and wetter than what eventually comes out of your body, because your small intestine is going to try to draw as much water out of it as it can. Again, I'll leave that to your imagination. The elimination of feces from the rectum is called defecation, and I'm sure as teenage high school students, you have lots of different colorful colloquialisms for what that process is called, but here in anatomy class, we call that process defecation. You know, little kids refer to that as going number two, but I think we all understand what that means. Defecation is a reflex action aided by voluntary contractions of the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles. So this basically means you have some control over when you will defecate, but it's not entirely up to you. You just can't up and decide, hey, I think I'll go defecate now just because I have the time to do it. Many of us are aware that your body lets you know when it's ready to get rid of that solid waste products. You can hold it, but when it comes time, your body tells you you just can't schedule it. Now, it is important to do this on a regular basis, and one of the things that you can do is in your diet, you can make sure that you have plenty of roughage. It is important. Everyone does it. There's no need to be embarrassed by it. I did have a student who had an issue many years ago had a student who had an issue with the act of defecating, and this individual held her fecal matter and prevented herself uh, pre- from going to the bathroom, and she ended up rupturing her colon. She was so constipated by that point that her colon broke open, and that, of course, not only is it damaging the organ as bad, but it actually then it leaked the E. coli bacteria out into her abdominal wall, and that is not good. That can be very dangerous, and so she had to go on a very aggressive run of antibiotics to save her life. So um, when you feel the urge, you know, when it's time to go, it's time to go. So please make sure we are doing this on a daily basis. All right. So some of the complications that we can have with our fecal matter and the act of eliminating the fecal matter, we have diarrhea, which is the frequent defecation of liquid feces. That would be the working definition of that. It is caused it caused by increased motility of the intestines and can lead to dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. So we go back a couple slides where I talked about the uh, particles that enter the large intestine from the small intestine, how that's basically fecal matter, but it's going to be runnier and wetter. So diarrhea is you get rid of that before your body has the time to get the water out of it. And so that's, your body isn't letting the large intestine get the water out of that fecal matter, and that's how you end up with uh, frequent liquid feces. And then the opposite of diarrhea is constipation. This refers to the infrequent or difficult defecation and is caused by decreased motility of the intestines and can be quite dangerous. In which feces remain in the colon for prolonged periods of time, may be alleviated by increasing one's intake of dietary fiber and fluids. So there are all kinds of things that are out there. Say prune juice will help. But your plants, because again, they have cell walls that are indigestible, that is your dietary fiber, and that's the stuff that's going to help keep you regular. So, dietary fiber, also known as bulk roughage, may be classified as insoluble, does not dissolve in water, and soluble, which some of it does dissolve in water. Both types affect the speed of food passage through the GI tract and may produce a number of benefits in the GI tract as well as elsewhere in the body. So, your vegetables are good for you. Eat your fruits and vegetables. There is evidence that insoluble fiber may help protect against colon cancer, and that soluble fiber may help lower blood cholesterol levels. So, again, it is very important that you eat your fruits and vegetables. And this is coming from basically a human that is a carnivore. I do try to make sure that I get on a daily basis my fruits and vegetables. Okay, so this is the end. This is going to take us to the end of not only today's lesson, but this is the end of all of the lecture material for this unit. All right, so I'm probably going to try to post a Kahoot challenge. I have just upgraded on my Quizlet to the teacher level, so I haven't really explored that yet, but I think I can use the upgrade to teacher on Quizlet to monitor your Quizlet usage. So I may have some stuff out there on Quizlet for you to work on where I can go in and check and see how you're doing. And I may end up issuing you some grade or participation points for that. I haven't checked that out yet, so don't quote me on that one. But since we are to the end of the unit, this means we're going to have a test coming up soon. So let's make sure we have gone in. You have an exit slip for today's lesson, and let's make sure we're up to date on all of our other assignments, and we're getting ready for this test. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email or log in and contact me on my office hours, which should be posted on Schoology when those will be. So Good luck, stay safe, and we will talk to you later.